Welcome to the Twin Cities Business Show. Minneapolis is getting the world's biggest photography festival. When Mode by Flickr comes here on September 18th, we're going to talk to the company's president and CEO about what they're building, about running the world's biggest photography archive, and how a family owned software business scales up over a matter of decades. Welcome to the Twin Cities Business Show. We are here today with Ben MacAskill, the president and COO of Awesome Inc., which runs SmugMug and Flickr. You just told me that you have a trademark around the word awesome.
We do, yeah. After we bought Flickr, we kind of realized we needed a new name, came up with the idea of awesome. Our lawyers swore up and down we could not get that trademark, and we tried anyways, and now I have it framed on my wall. I have the trademark for awesome for very specific cases.
Yeah. So just be careful out there using the word awesome. There could be a situation in your future. This is a unique kind of show. You are the first non-Minnesota business that we've had on, and we're having you on for a very exciting reason. You guys are bringing Flickr's festival to Minneapolis. Can you tell us a little bit more about what is happening starting on September 18th at the festival, and then why you chose Minneapolis?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, as you mentioned, it's a festival. It's right here in Minneapolis, and just to set the scope on what we're building, it's going to be 6 blocks on Nicollet Mall, blocked all the way off to traffic, and not just front to back, but side to side. No more buses for a few days. They're from PV Plaza, 6 blocks down, and there'll be massive art installations. There'll be breakdancing and skateboarding and things to take photos of, a beer garden and music stages. Um, all the way down to Loring Park, we have a giant music venue that we're building right there in Loring Park, 10,000-ish people concert venue. We're taking over the city center and building art installations in the empty department stores that are in there. Some really trippy, really weird, really fun stuff. And then, of course, tons and tons of workshops and talks and keynotes and photo walks. So that's, just a little bit of the scope of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we picked Minneapolis, as you can probably hear, because it can support this, right? It's such a perfect city, and the city was so great at working with us to block all of that off, to be able to take over the heart of Minneapolis and build something really unique. And not just build something unique this year, we really want to build it year after year after year after year. So yes, this September, and yes, next September and onwards. So the city has just been fantastic to work with in letting us kind of use it as a playground.
That's amazing. So why launch a
Hmm.
photography festival in 2026?
I think there's a lot of reasons, and I would say that the simplest one is because I want it to exist, right? And so hopefully we can make a really good business out of it. But it's something I want to attend, and it hasn't existed. There is no festival celebrating photography and photographers, and there never has been, which
That's
is
so
kind of
wild.
weird to think
Yeah.
about. I've been to Sundance, for instance, and if you're really into cinema, you either go to Sundance or you want to go to Sundance. And these celebrations exist in these other spheres, and there hasn't been one for photography. So I hoped somebody else would build it, and nobody did. So we set out to kind of build it. And I think the timing is particularly ideal. And I think I got lucky there. We'll see. But photography is having this really great moment. People want things that are tangible. They want connections that are real. They want to get together. We're coming off many years later now since pandemic lockdowns, and people want to pick up a tangible camera, go out with their friends, make new friends, and go take photos. And so we think the timing is perfect to get everybody together and really celebrate photography and make some cool stuff.
So tell us more about, can families come? What does it cost to get in? How do I sign up? Can you tell me more about the logistics of the festival?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely bring your kids. We want them to fall in love with photography and be the next generation of photographers. Uh, and by show up, I mean just roll down to Nicollet Mall. We're headquartered right there in the Dayton's Project
Hmm.
and City Center and PV Plaza. If you show up there and you miss us, we've done something horribly, horribly wrong. It'll be impossible to not know where to go when you get there, and all of that's free, which is great news. That's the best price for everybody. But if you're really into photography, if you're really into photography and you want to learn more and you want to go on photo walks with the best photographers on planet Earth and to hear their keynotes and go through workshops, it's a 3-day ticket of right around $200. Um, there's some discounts going on right now for World Photography Day, but go to modefestival.com and you can check it out. That'll also get you into the music venues in Loring Park at night. We have some incredible headline acts: Vince Staples on Friday, Tycho on Saturday, and local legend Corey Wong on Sunday. Really cool music. And for the photographers in the audience, this is the only music venue you can bring your camera and are
Hmm.
encouraged to bring your camera and get some really cool concert photography. So there's a mix for everybody, whether you're ticketed or not. Come on down, uh, go to the website, take a look at what we're building, and come experience it.
Fantastic. So tell me a little bit more. You got into it a little bit, but really going deep on the process of, okay, we want to do this festival. We're looking at all these cities and just the process of choosing Minneapolis.
Yeah, I had a few that I thought would be ideal. Some dream cities. I wanted to take over all of Old Town San Juan in Puerto
Hmm.
Rico, like as a photography canvas. It would be,
Yeah.
incredible and gorgeous. A lot of logistical problems with that. We do have a business to run, and it was actually a chance encounter with the outdoor recreation office, Governor Waltz's office, at a show, and they said, "Well, have you thought about Minneapolis?" And I said, "Well, not really." And we've actually done business here for a while. We have a print lab outside in Egan, just right outside the city limits there, that we've worked with for 15 years. So I'm familiar with the city, but it just wasn't on that radar. And the mayor's office invited us to come take a tour, and we showed up here and started walking around and really kind of looking at the venues we could take over. And so that was a great start. But there are a lot of cities with a lot of really great venues. And the mayor himself came out with us and was really excited about what we were building. And everyone else we talked about to didn't understand. They didn't really get it. And he was kind of a yes and like, what?
Mhm.
And what if we did this over here? And what if we did this over there? And it was fantastic to hear our idea kind of bounce back at us and have the city so excited for it. And honestly, it felt like a city poised for this sort of moment too, right? We didn't want to be lost in New York or Los Angeles where they wouldn't even notice that we're here. Um, and you also don't want a city that's, I don't know, falling apart or in decay or is desperate. Minneapolis has invested a lot in the downtown area. It's beautiful. It's a really fantastic canvas for us to play with.
That's great. That's really good. Um, I want to dig a little bit more into this photography moment that we're in. It's
Yeah.
2026. AI is kind of all the
Mhm.
talk and all the rage. Instagram has taken over a bunch of what photography is or is not. Uh, People have cameras in their phones. Talk a little bit more about sort of where photography is at right now and why you think that this is sort of a special moment.
Yeah, I think it might surprise a lot of people to hear me say that. I think this is one of the coolest moments for photography that I've experienced in my adult life. All of those things you said are true, but it's kind of driving us in a direction. I mean, let's start with Instagram, for instance. How much of Instagram is photography now? It definitely started that way, but now it's all reels and video, and they're not chasing photography and photographers. And then you don't need to take a photo anymore. You can just type it into Chat GPT,
Hmm.
right? So why? And then on top of all of that, just to kind of keep piling it on, yeah, your iPhone takes a great photo, and you just point it at something and take a photo, and it'll process it to what it thinks it should look like, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to think about it. So why photography now of all times? I think people are realizing that they love photography and they're not doing it to generate an image, right? Okay, that's what ChatGPT can do for you. Um, they're doing it because they like creation. I compare it sometimes to the invention of photography, which is now 200 years old. And so you can now take a photo, right? Photography's getting big. People stop drawing and painting, right? That's it. You don't need to anymore. If you want to create something, you just snap the little shutter button, or the big shutter button at the time. Uh, People continued to paint. They still continue to paint. That might shock some people because they love it. right? It's an art of creation. It's an expression, and I think people are realizing that they want to do that and they value that. People are still having moments that you're never going to ask ChatGPT to generate photos of your wedding, photos of finishing the Twin Cities Marathon, photos of a trip that you took once in a lifetime to Hawaii or wherever you went. Those all still matter, and people are realizing that they're going to take some time and pay attention to that. So camera sales are up year over year over year. The first time in a long time since iPhones and Android phones started gutting the industry on the camera sales. Camera sales are growing, but weird cameras are growing. Pentax just released about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, a new from scratch film camera. Like
Hmm.
actually load film in, go to this camera store. It's got a lot of the modern amenities of a fancy camera. All your light metering and all the nerdy stuff is built in, but it's a film camera, a brand new one, engineered from scratch. And I have a whole cabinet full of other weird cameras coming out. There's just a strong indication that people realize they love photography for photography.
That's really great. How does the profile of a, your typical photographer look like today versus say 20 years ago?
That's a good question. It still remains one of the most popular hobbies people have. If you go hiking out here, you're going to see a lot more cameras than you might have seen a few years ago, and
Hmm.
it's a lot of them are young. There's a really interesting phenomenon happening now. I wish I'd kept all of my like early 2000s happy snappy like Olympus cameras and those
Yeah.
sorts of things, because if you go on eBay now, those are expensive. And it's not people like me with the nostalgia for it that are buying it. It's 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds. Same people who are getting into fountain pens and vinyl again,
Hmm.
right? It's this kind of really interesting mix. So you have the traditional photography people like you've had a lot. There's always this big surge of photographers buying cameras, late 40s, early 50s. Their kids are going off to college ish and they're rediscovering their hobbies. I'm sure it happens in other hobbies. I just know the photography one. So that's always, I mean, that's happening. So many of my friends are like, oh, my kids are back. I want to get back into photography. Really common surges still, but I would say even the younger generations are picking up cameras, not just their phones, and they're really falling in love.
That's very beautiful, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
it's good for us.
yeah,
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 it's
totally.
very encouraging.
So, you run a software company and then you talk all about the tangibility and real life experiences and all that. And can you just talk a little bit about that dichotomy and how you've sort of arrived at that after doing this for, a couple decades?
Yeah, right. I mean, we're a fully remote company. We're fully virtual. We have been for 20 years. Um, we make software to connect or not connect online and hide behind screens. It is definitely a weird conversation topic. Um, and, but I think our experience with Flickr has really helped influence that. Flickr is this rich community of communities. So if you're really into photography and really into building Legos, for instance, we have awesome communities for you, and they build all these connections. But then we've noticed over the years, and these are self-organizing sorts of events, but we've noticed these communities get together.
Hmm.
They go on photo walks, they organize photo trips, and they build these really deep connections. And that was kind of the understanding that photography is a connection with these other people. It's inherently emotional. It's either your art or your memories or your work. um, and so the connections you make through that are inherently emotional and very very deep, not just fleeting or passing. And so as we started working more in those Flickr communities, we realized the hunger for having a broader, more authentic connection. I would say that was kind of the thread we started pulling
Yeah.
that led to taking over a city.
Right, right, right. So Flickr really has functioned for a while like a social network that has had an in-person component to it.
Yeah, I mean, Flickr is one of the earliest social networks, and to be really clear to the viewers, I didn't found Flickr. Flickr was founded by an incredible team that and sold to Yahoo, and that team, many of them went on to go found Slack. Like these are very talented people. They
Mhm.
helped invent some of the social network components in these communities, and yeah, it very quickly blossomed into this in person kind of hybrid social network of your local communities. And when I travel, I often will jump into the Flickr communities wherever I go and do a photo walk with them. So I led a photo walk across Lisbon with a bunch of people I'd never met, and you just connect with them through Flickr. um, and yeah, the common thread is photography. Flickr really is a social network around photography rather than some of the more broad ones like a Facebook or Instagram or TikTok that are kind of general to anybody. Uh, but it is very much a thriving social network.
Wow. So I want to go all the way back to founding the original company, and then if you can just take us through a little bit of how that happened. What year are we in?
2002.
Okay.
Probably the ideas probably started 2001 ish, but yeah, we launched 2002. It really started with kind of a convergence of ideas between my brother and I, who currently own and operate the business, and my dad, who's now retired but was very much in that founding team. My dad was a lifelong photographer, loved photography. Very much one of those people I'm talking about that like they do it because they can't not do it. Right? It's just in his blood. My brother, his wife was a working professional photographer, and he was building tools for her to, run her weddings and portrait sessions better. And I had just gotten back from backpacking around Europe with a little Olympus pocket camera that I should have eBayed this year. And I had photos that suddenly mattered to me forever. I was young, and photography didn't matter to me before. I didn't have anything I'd taken photos of that I cared, and suddenly I did.
You're how old at this point?
I'd be, let's see, 2002, 23.
Okay.
So we're in our early 20s, and my dad's in his late 40s
Hmm.
there at that time. And so we just started poking at like there's got to be a better place to put photos online, and there wasn't. And so we started what would become SmugMug. These days SmugMug is primarily aimed at professional photographers running their whole business. We have a few 100,000 professional photographers. We have photographers in every non-embargoed country on planet Earth, which is such a fun stat.
Okay.
Very catchy stat
Yep.
to throw out
Yep.
there. But yeah, so in those early days, we didn't even, I mean, it was built for us more than anyone else. And we didn't even know if there was a business there. So we didn't take any money. The only money we really poured into it was, I think we wrote something like a $25 check to the city of Mountain View in California for a business license to start this thing. And we ate ramen and slept on each other's couches and banged out some software and built this thing. And so now, 25 years later almost, it's still family owned and operated. It's, no outside investors. We really just get to focus on our customers and build really weird stuff. So
So when did you guys first start to make money off the business?
it took us, I think, 2 years to hit our $1 million run rate. That was,
Okay.
then we there's all these fun pictures. We dyed our hair green because we just thought like the color of money, because
Yeah.
we're $1 million, a
Yeah. Yeah.
million
Yeah.
dollar
Yeah.
business. Can you
And
even
you're
imagine?
25.
Yeah, right. Like,
Green hair
and
makes
yeah,
sense.
totally. My dad did too, for the record.
That's
what
awesome.
what hair he had
That's
left
good.
at the time. Yeah, I mean, because we didn't take any investment, we had to figure out a business model real fast. And online at the time, and still, it's all ads. And I don't like ads. I don't know anybody who does. Well, I guess the people making lots of money on it do.
Hmm.
We didn't want to put ads there, especially like weird ads next to photos of your Disneyland trip. Like, it just felt wrong. We were convinced that printing was dying. Some of the other businesses just worked on selling, photographic prints.
Mm.
Kodak and Hewlett Packard were doing this on their platforms at the time. We were wrong. Printing's a huge part of our business
Yeah.
and still very much something people are doing. But we didn't invest there for years because we were convinced that the future was not going to be
Hmm.
digital and not print. So we did something unusual. We just charged money, and nobody charged money online at the time.
Hmm.
I apologize in advance because, like, your Netflix, your Spotify, your Amazon Prime, all of those subscriptions, we were the first. And
Wow.
so I've ruined your credit card
Thank
statements, and
you.
I
Thank you
really
for that. Yeah.
apologize. Yeah. But we charged at the time, it was $30 a year,
Mm.
unlimited storage. We figured either customers are going to pay us or we don't have something on our hands.
Hmm.
And they immediately started paying us, which was cool. Very first customer just found us on a Google search, didn't know us from anything. He is still paying. So he first signed up November 2nd, 2002.
Wow.
And that's why we celebrate our birthday. The first time a credit card was pulled out, a random person pulled out a credit card, gave us money. His account is still active. He's still uploading. He's still paying money. We love him.
That's
We don't
wild.
know him very well. Like
Yeah.
we reached out a few times and said, "Hey,
Yeah.
thanks. It's cool."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we just started charging money. So it took us a long time to hit that $1 million run rate, and kept growing from there.
Wow. So then, take me through the next couple years and up to the Flickr acquisition.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, growth was steady, organic. I mean, there were some big surges, some really fun moments. I got a call from a guy in Chicago who wanted to run for senator named Barack Obama, and we helped set up his campaign site on SmugMug. He ran the whole thing on SmugMug.
He called you.
Yeah, and it was just my Yeah, I didn't know who he
That's
was. Like
amazing.
I'd never heard his name
Yeah.
before, and he and his team are just like, hey, we want to do some innovative stuff.
Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, right. I think he did all right. By the time he ran for president, he was using he'd reinvented digital campaigning.
Yeah.
So we did not get his presidential
He's
campaign
not
site.
still paying you to.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
I think that it was like Obama for Illinois.smugmug.com or whatever,
That's
and
incredible.
it's long since gone. Howard Dean ran for president that same year and used SmugMug as well. So we had some of these kind of
Incredible.
really interesting big surges, but mostly we just stuck at it and just kept building, and you know, it was good and we were happy and everything was great. And then we heard so Yahoo had bought Flickr, and the first bunch of years at Yahoo were magic for Flickr. They'd built a really cool product. Now they still had that same team and they had Yahoo's money.
And this is what year are we talking
Wow. So I think it's
roughly?
2006 would
Okay.
2006 was when Yahoo bought Flickr.
Got it.
Next several years, right? They have the golden handcuffs. They're working at Yahoo after the acquisition. I would say those are some of the glory years of
Hmm.
when I meet people who think all the way back, and they'll say things like, "Oh, Flickr was better before Yahoo bought it." Well, sort of. It was actually a really great time there too.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the founding team leaves. Yahoo doesn't know what to do with itself. Instagram starts blowing up. Yahoo starts flailing around, thinking, what do we do with Flickr? Flickr should have been Instagram. They're wrong. It really is not the same thing, but they didn't know and they didn't know what to do with it. And so there was a lot of mismanagement and flailing around. And most of this is, public record. Plenty of people know the stories of Yahoo being able to buy Google for $1 billion and then eventually,
Yeah.
being sold for less than that themselves. Right.
Yeah.
So when Yahoo was really in the depths and falling apart, we actually tried to buy Flickr. We heard it might be up for sale. We thought Yahoo was going to be too big to buy for anybody to buy alone. Like nobody was
Hmm.
going to go buy all of Yahoo, so they were probably going to chop it up for parts, right? So we tried, and then it turns out that Verizon bought the whole thing, bought all of Yahoo, smushed it together with AOL, which they'd bought 2 years before, and they made a kind of a weird entity that no longer exists because it was weird
Yeah.
and it didn't work for Verizon either.
Yeah.
But about a few years into Verizon now owning Flickr, we heard that it was probably going to get shut down, that Flickr was just going to disappear. And to give you a scope of what we're talking about, Flickr is probably not probably it's the biggest collection of photography that humans have ever put together.
Wow.
Talking tens of billions of photos, right? I distinguish it from say an Instagram because I can't go on Instagram and see what say San Francisco was like in or Minneapolis was like in May of 2020 in the height of
Hmm.
lockdowns. You can't go do that on Instagram. You can go do that on Flickr. So it truly you can go browse decades of our cultural history. The Library of Congress has hundreds of thousands of images on Flickr, and so do everybody else basically. And we were going to lose all of that. Like it was going to be gone. Uh, 2 decades of our cultural heritage, our cultural history, our collective memory were going to be gone. Things that didn't exist anywhere else. So Don and I, my brother and I, sat down and thought, I think we could still buy this thing and save it. And we started talking in that kind of language. It was like, we need to save Flickr. We love it. We know about 100 million other people love it using it. And so we set out to buy it. It was a ridiculous year of my life to try and buy Flickr, and then we had to make a business out of it. I mean, it was losing so much money. Verizon wanted no part of it.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Right.
When
Right.
you're looking at, like, they were doing $144 billion in revenue that year that they sold it to us, and they were losing so much on Flickr, they wanted no part of it. So
Wow.
we had to turn the business around. We had to rebuild all of Flickr and modern infrastructure. It was crazy, but yeah, that is so that would have been 2018.
Okay.
We bought Flickr, and then, just a year and a half later, the world shut down. So we're in the middle of doing all of this, trying to desperately turn this thing around, and then the world shuts down. So
Man.
we're pretty stoked we're still here.
Yeah. So at this point, what is your company worth, and then what do you guys buy Flickr for?
So none of this is public, but
Okay.
I'll kind of hand wavy a
Yeah.
little bit here,
Yeah.
because we're, family owned and
Right.
operated. So it's kind of trade secrets for, we don't have to publicly
Hmm.
report. And on top of that, the confidentiality, the Flickr agreement, the acquisition on both parties made it very clear they never wanted that to get out. We
Yep.
didn't want it to get out. They didn't want it to get out.
Yep.
It's a lot less than people would think.
Yeah.
And I think that also there were a lot of really great people inside of Verizon and
Hmm.
the old Yahoo that did want to see Flickr survive. There are
Right.
people who were willing to make concessions and deals there. So, but I'll tell you, the losses, uh, the projected losses were about what our run rate was on
Got it.
revenue.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, that's
to
kind of
give
what
you
I was
like a
trying
little,
to.
yeah,
Yeah.
we anticipated less than a year of runway if we did nothing.
Okay.
Like, if we buy Flickr and just keep paying the checks, we would have been out of business, completely bankrupt in less than a year.
It would have taken your business out along
Everything,
with it. Yeah.
both would be gone. SmugMug and Flickr both would have been gone.
Wow. Okay,
So
so then you guys are able to actually pull the deal off. What do you do to try to turn around a business like that?
yeah, right. The big question.
Mhm.
There's two big things. I mean, it's classic business, right? Reduce costs and grow revenue.
Mhm.
Um, we were actually, in the weird trivia of Awesome Inc. We are Amazon's first customer for what would eventually become AWS. We
Wow.
literally are the very first people to ever use, before it was AWS. That was us. So we have a very close relationship with Amazon,
Mhm.
and with AWS, and we always have, and a lot of expertise there. So getting out of old data centers, getting into modernizing technology, we slashed tens of millions of dollars of losses off by just modernizing,
Wow.
our cloud infrastructure. That goes a long ways. And then trying to, figure out how to make money with Flickr, something that nobody had ever really figured out before. We changed, the what it meant to be a free customer on Flickr. Very controversial. I mean, you go look at the news articles of the time, and I'm just kind of being blasted on all fronts for being the horrible person that's destroying Flickr by charging money for it,
Yeah.
right? But that's something that, again, we knew how to do because we'd been doing it a long time. Provide enough value that somebody wants to subscribe, and we with Flickr, it's important to have that big free community.
Mhm.
So we didn't want to make everything paid. Um, and if you're just casual and get on Flickr occasionally to look at birds and maybe upload a few bird photos yourself, I want you to be able to do that without having to pay us money. But if you're the sort of person who the first thing you do in the morning is you wake up, you check your Flickr, you're uploading your photos, you're communicating, hopefully we can generate enough value that you would pay us money.
Yeah.
So that's what we really, really worked on. And hundreds of thousands of Flickr members stepped up, pulled out their credit cards, and kept Flickr afloat. And we
Wow.
talked about it even to the community that way. Like, if you love Flickr, maybe consider paying money for it so we can all keep this thing around for a while. And yeah, it took us several years. I mean, you close the gap, so then that runway gets longer and longer. Okay, now we have a 2-year runway, but we're still
Mhm.
losing money, sort of thing. But I probably should know the exact day, but we did eventually tick over to, we're making one more dollar than we're spending, so
Yeah.
now Flickr can run forever.
Did you dye your hair green again?
I should have.
Yeah.
Really should have. We did not.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, Flickr is now profitable. But I'll say, because we're on a business show here, it's a very, very, very thin profit at this
Yeah.
moment. We still have a lot of work cut out for us on making this thing, you know, really. I wouldn't say healthy. It's healthy. It's very healthy. Like, it's growing, and the community loves it, and the business is solid. But I think we'd love to do better.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone would.
Yeah. Right.
So, there's this interesting through line of this, which is that, it feels like one of the big innovations that you guys brought, I mean, from an early day and even later than that, is people will pay for a good product, and there's
Mm,
been this tension between the free ad supported internet and that, and it feels like you guys were right twice in a very important way. So can you talk a little bit more about that? All the media companies are trying to figure out the same
yeah.
question right now, and like, how did you make that decision? How did you have that conviction? And what would you tell other people who are trying to struggle with that same challenge?
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough to get somebody to pay for something,
Mhm.
especially it's something they can get free,
Mhm.
right? I think there is a growing understanding these days, making some of it a little easier. People realize what they're actually paying for Facebook and Instagram, and what they're paying is their privacy,
Mhm.
right? And people are like, a lot of people say, well, if you're not paying money, then you are the product, which is
Yeah.
kind of the feeling. So I think we have some advantages there. It is tough for, say, a media company or whatever. The challenge is, how many am I going to pay for? Well, maybe I'll just go get my news from the New York Times. Maybe I don't need the Star Tribune or something like that.
Mhm.
I do subscribe to the Star Tribune. I pay.
Great.
I
As
pay.
do I.
Yeah, good. So I'll pick on them for a little bit because
Yep.
I'm a paying
Yeah.
customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's tough, right? This is where your challenge is, and I think it is what they're doing well, and why I subscribe there is they're providing value to residents here, right? Um, so trying to identify what makes you different and what value do you have is kind of the classic business conundrum. But for Flickr, it was investing in things that made us different from Instagram, that
Hmm.
made us different from any other social network. Flickr truly is unique in that kind of collection of communities, that really authentic collection, and also for us things like how well we moderate on the platform.
Yeah.
Flickr's been described as the last friendly place online,
Hmm.
and that's important. And so we focus on those things. What is the value that a customer might care about? They're probably not going to pay you for claiming that you're nice on
Yeah.
that, but they sure will leave if they're not treated nicely, right? If
Yeah.
they get up and people are abusing them all day long, and
It's not fun. You're
said
trying to
no,
look at birds.
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so, you know, that's not a very neat or straightforward answer, but I would say, like, yeah, you continue to look at, where do you differentiate, where do you provide value to your ideal customer,
Hmm.
and for us, yeah, it's differentiating from places that they're honestly pretty disgruntled with. So,
So take me through a little bit of that that Instagram thing,
yeah,
because that's you're particularly during the 2010s, you're existing during this time where they're exploding. Facebook is tied at the hip with them, is sort of shoving them everywhere. They are growing in popularity, and you talk about really wanting to differentiate from them. How have you done that the last few years?
I think they're making it easier the last few years,
Yeah,
in that they're running as far from photography as we
right.
are towards photography, right? You don't open your feed on Instagram anymore and see things that sit still, right?
Yeah,
Everything's moving. It's
yeah.
all video, it's all reels,
Hmm.
it's all stories, etc. So that helps, but I also think it really is focusing on, how do we help you find what you want, not try and shove it down your throat,
Yeah.
right? We don't have a recommended feed, right?
Hmm.
Our feed is very delightfully old fashioned. It's chronological on people you follow. So,
I love chronological feed
right?
so much.
So do I.
Yeah.
I see the photographers I want to follow when I open my feed on Flickr, which means I see what I want, not what, say, Facebook wants me to see.
What a novel concept.
Novel concept, right? And people respond well to that. I think we can do a better job of helping you find other photographers to follow, but not jamming it into your feed every time you open the app. So I think it is that, like, rejection of what is Instagram these
Hmm.
days, and we'll pick on them specifically, but
Let's do
yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things that you can pay for on Flickr, like the core, is, so yes, you can upload, unlimited photos and all that sort of stuff, but you also don't have ads, and no ads are served against your content. Like, great, let's get away from ads on that.
Hmm.
So when you open your feed, it's photography. It's inspiring. It's the photography you want to see. Um, the communities and the groups features on Flickr help you find what you want. I had the weirdest experience ever, where my grandma, when I bought Flickr, she was excited. I was like, "What? How do you even know what
Yeah.
Flickr is?" I get on there every morning to look at birds. And so, you know, the birding community, we have every birder known to man, which is great. We love them. They have their communities where
Hmm.
they're in there on specific kind of birding communities. And I'm sure they're seeing a lot of bird content on Instagram, but they're also seeing everything else on Instagram that's being jammed down their throat. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's really streamlining and simplifying. And I think there's something really interesting with being content with photographers as the demographic.
Hmm.
I don't think there are a billion passionate photographers around the world. Maybe, I don't know. There's definitely a few 100 million. We know there's more than 100 million.
Hmm.
That's an incredible market. That's not a small market. But to a Meta or a Google, that's a tiny market. They don't want that.
Yeah.
They don't want to build products for 200 million people or 300 million people. I do though. So like I kind of love that simplicity of we have a really big market we can go after and other people don't want it.
Is part of the reason that you're able to do that because you guys bootstrapped it and kept it family owned?
100% of the reason. Right? I don't have venture capitalists in my ears saying, "Oh yeah, what was the line from The Social Network? What's really cool is a billion
Yeah.
users, right?" Like I don't have Sean Parker or whoever said that in my ear saying, "No, you've got to go for really really big." I think the our industry as a broader the software industry is riddled with these kind of horror stories of you have this great business but it's not enough, it's never enough, right?
Yeah.
I think Evernote is one of the ones I love
Mm-hmm.
to talk about. If you're familiar
Hmm.
with Evernote, great note taking app, save all your notes, productivity app. They started putting out scanners and productivity socks and all sorts of stuff because it was never enough. They had a profitable business, but somebody wants to get richer, and we don't have that.
How have you been able to do that? To keep it family owned when, there are we were talking before and I was like, I don't think I could name another large family owned software company out there.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty unique in our industry. Like totally unique in our industry.
Mhm.
I think coming off of some other previous businesses, my dad had taken a business public and
Mm.
then an early bookstore online and then sold it to Barnes and Noble. He'd been through all of that. He hated every bit of it.
Yeah.
The running a public company. My brother had been involved in venture-backed startups that would, get big or die fast sort of things. So we had the experience to know we don't want to do that. Like we
Mhm.
really don't want to do that. And as we started to build in those early days, you just focused on can we even build anything? And then once we started to realize we did have something, it was working and it was great. Realized this is what we want to do and we want to keep doing it forever. Uh, I I hosted a luncheon at the Graduate School of Business at Stanford
Mhm.
with a few other business leaders, and there was this one business student at Stanford who asked like, "Well, but what if you could sell this business for $1 billion?" And I was like, "Okay, I don't want to," but he says, "But imagine what you could build with $1 billion." I would try and build what I have right now,
Yeah.
like, and I probably would fail. Like, there's so much luck that goes into managing to succeed at business. I'd like to think I'm really good, but I don't think I could do this again from scratch. And that, like, we really are intentional about this is the business we want. We
Mhm.
love working with the people we get to work with. We love the customers we have. They're connected to us in such deep ways. There's no amount of money I would want that I think would improve my life. I would go back to trying to build something that I just gave up.
Yeah. So I'm guessing I know at least part of your answer based on this context, right? But the thing that every family business struggles with is like, what is the exit strategy, right? So how do you even think about that? I mean, it's pretty clear that you're in this, you want to be in this for a long time, but what does it look like when one day you say, hey, this is not necessarily what I want to, or I don't want to work anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, that's really, really hard in family businesses, right? And I'm very active in a lot of family business communities, and it's the topic of discussion. Turns out most of them fail on the transition from Gen 2 to Gen 3. It's
Hmm.
not 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Kids will take over for dad, apparently much easier than grandkids will take over.
Yeah.
And there's, a lot of study behind that. We're trying to be intentional about how we structure that. Even things like the way we look at estate planning and trusts, and passing it down in a way that incentivizes our kids and their kids to not sell the business and not compromise the business. There's important things that we're not doing a good job at right now that other advisors have told us. For instance, we don't take a lot of money out of the business.
Hmm.
We love investing it back in the business, but that'll become a point of tension when, your kids who weren't passionate about photography. I mean, eventually we'll have people who think photography is cool, but, owners in the business that aren't into it the way we are, and they're going to be sitting on this business that's theoretically worth a lot of money and they're not
Hmm.
getting anything.
Right.
That's where it starts getting really tempting to sell it off or to gut it or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I think you have to think long term. We've done some workshops on what does it look like to plan for 100 years. It's harder in business than it is for your own estate planning. Like I can't leave a business will legally
Yeah.
binding, right, the way I
Right.
can for myself. But we can leave our thoughts, our wishes, our desires. There's other interesting things, right? Patagonia famously is now in that the trust,
Hmm.
um, and others will go employee owned, ESOPs and other structures. But there are also a lot of really great 100% family owned businesses that manage to make it last. Radio Flyer,
Hmm.
Robert Passon is a very good friend of mine, chief wagon officer. It was his granddad's business, and he's
Great
still
title.
running it. I know it's the best title, chief wagon officer. I have a lot of admiration, and I learn a lot from him. But they just crossed 100 years. They're still family owned and
Wow.
operated. He's generation three. White Castle of all businesses, third generation also, and over 100 years, and managed to keep it in the
And
family.
sliders
So
still hit.
sliders still hit. So it can be done, but yeah, it's hard and it's rare.
So how do you look at, there's this whole thing that I've talked to other people who are in this situation. It's how do you bring in the next generation? Like how do you bring them into the business? How do you start talking to them about it? Can you talk about how you guys have thought about that problem and how you've tried to navigate that?
Yeah,
Not problem, but the
yeah,
situation.
problemtunity,
Yeah,
as we'll
yeah,
call it.
exactly.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I mean, our kids have grown up in the business, so that helps, right? They've been around. They know why we love it. They see it, and I think that's important. Talk to your kids about why it's important to you. Um, but you don't know, what they want to do with their life. So just to kind of level set, Dawn's oldest son is, I think, junior or senior in college now. So
Okay.
we're kind of in that age, right?
Yeah.
And he loves software engineering, and he's a brilliant software engineer. He's a programmer. He's interned in the business. I mean, I think that's a really obvious one. He would
Yeah.
love to work in the business, from what I understand, and we'd love to have him work in the business. We're always trying to hire people of that caliber and talent. M- you know, what might so I've a college age daughter and a senior in high school. Senior in high school doesn't know what she wants to do, and we're a pretty broad business, especially now that we're adding events and other
Hmm.
stuff in there. So maybe we have something, but maybe we don't. Maybe nothing that we offer is interesting to her. um and it's more important, I think, for me as a dad, for my kids to be happy than to try and like carry on my legacy project for
Yeah.
my ego's sake or something like that. So we have we're having those conversations. I think when available, we are encouraging our kids to intern in the business, and also get experience elsewhere. We've had second generation, like, they're adults. I was about to say kids. They're not kids
Yeah.
anymore, or they wouldn't be interning with us. We've had the adult children of other employees
Hmm.
intern and want to join the business and stuff too, which I think is really really cool. We'd love to have that. I think that sort of longevity matters, like how long they have been exposed to the business and really know what we're trying to build.
That's really cool. You guys are, building something that doesn't exist, and you're doing it in a way that few people have built things like this. How do you look at, who do you listen to? What are you reading? Like, where do you get external advice from?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll give the most credit to, I have a group of other business owners in the Bay Area. They're all also running private businesses, and they're varied. Everything from food businesses to in-home elder care to another software business, a winery, multi-generation winery. They're my trusted crew. I like, once a month we get inside a room and it's cone of silence and total transparency, and so you can let your guard down. I think it's
Hmm.
so important as a business leader to be able to have somebody that you can take the marketing like shroud off of, and
Yeah.
you don't have to sit there and go, oh no, everything's great.
Yeah.
No, it's a business, everything's on fire all the
Hmm.
time,
Yep.
right? And having a group that you can be honest with and really talk about that, they're incredible, and they've been a huge help to me. um and then, I think go out and experience. I've as you can probably imagine, I've been on a festival, journey. I've been to South by and Sundance and Burning Man and, all sorts of things just to see how others are doing it. I've been lucky enough to be able to connect with a lot of those festival operators and just go in with the humility of, I have no idea what I'm doing, like
Yeah.
no idea what I'm doing, and then, hire experienced people. I mean, that's like business rule number one: hire people smarter and more experienced than you. Period. But especially when you're getting into new territories. So.
What have you picked up on this sort of festival journey? Like, what are some things that you've taken from some of these really established ones that you want to try to emulate or bring to mode mode by Flickr?
Yeah,
Yeah.
mode by Flickr. Yeah, I mean, I think it's usually like little tidbits. I really loved, for instance, I really loved the way that South by Southwest engaged both their ticketed attendees, but also the community of Austin.
Hmm.
So there's lots of different places you can go into these experiences, into these, whatever it is sort of thing. And just logistically, if I have a ticket, I go through the very short, fast line. It's, kind of like getting a fast pass at Disneyland, but the actual Austin community who may not care as much about South by can still go experience some of this art, with a quick or a longer line. They'll just have to wait in line, but they don't have to pay anything. They can go. So like we're bringing that to mode here in Minneapolis. We have some really incredible art installations, really large scale art installations. Again, like taking over the entirety of inside Saks, the old
Hmm.
Saks store. You're going to want to go see it. And maybe you're not as into photography, but you do want to go see the art. Cool. We stole that idea straight from South by Southwest, right? Like we'll be able to bring the community in to see that. So sometimes it's just really tactical there. I think some of the things that I learned from both South by and Sundance, to stick with those two names, is how much the community influences them and they influence the community,
Hmm.
which is why we were looking for a home,
Yeah.
right? We want to be here, in the Twin Cities for forever. We want the vibe of this community to influence our festival, and we hope to be significant enough that we also influence, the community here. If we do our job right, both the city and us, this will be the epicenter of photography. This will be the city you know of as the photography city. Why? Because the biggest photography event happens here. I think you see that with Sundance. They did just move, out of Park City, but Park City became this kind of iconic location for cinema, and it really influenced both in that direction. So yeah, I loved that, and we really were looking for a home.
That's great. So that's a very cool way to think about, a couple years from now, you want this place to be known for photography. But, just thinking about year one, are there are there metrics or other things that you're looking at to be able to look back and say, okay, that was a success?
Obviously, money. I mean, we're trying to run a business,
Hmm.
and I get asked the question like, well, how do you make sure that this festival is still a significant thing in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Well, that's easy. Is it still making money? Then we're not going to cut it,
Hmm.
right? Like, and we are going to try and run this on its own P&L. This year, it's going to lose money. Like year one event is just
Right.
probably impossible to make money off of a year one event. Um, and we went into that knowing it. But yeah, I mean, we have to sell our tickets and we have to convince other businesses to show up, and that's harder than I thought it would be in a year
Hmm.
one event. We're making a lot of progress and it's very exciting and looking good. So obviously, like, don't take such a big bath on the loss on the year one, that you do still have the appetite to do it again. It's looking pretty good there. And then, for us, it's foot traffic. I want it to be full and vibrant. There's been some other events, out east, celebrating our 250th. that were empty. And you look at it, and that was the story. The story wasn't. I don't even know what the experiences were at that thing.
Yeah.
The state fair in the Capitol, because the stories were, look, there's 12 people here. Like, we've got to get people out. And I think because we have so much free and amazing content, concerts and beer gardens and art and stuff that's all available to the community, I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, hopefully the city here turns out, the community turns out and comes and brings their kids and enjoys it. And if we look back and we filled that all those venues up with people who really enjoyed it, awesome. Then we got something on our hands.
That's great. That's great. Anything else? You've got hopefully a bunch of people from Minnesota listen to this. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that you wanna tell people about, what you're up to or what you wanna see this year?
Yeah, I mean, I just, I think, repeat exactly what I just asked. Please come out. Like, we're building something that we want you to see, and we're putting it here for a reason. We love the fact that Minnesotans have pride in place. They love being here, right? It's why it's such a significant community and city. Come, turn out, you know, show up and support us, and we will show up and support you all. We're really, really excited about being here and the reception we've already got. But yeah, we can't do this if if people don't come out. Then we got to go find somewhere else to do it, and I don't want to do that.
Great. Well, we will help spread the word.
Awesome, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you as well to Gabe Noah, Keely Doyle, Mike Novak, Ali Alt, and Connor O'Neill for all your help behind the scenes. We will see you next time.